Anticipation is running high as Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrives for crucial talks with US President Donald Trump. The meeting is being billed as a potential turning point in the long and bloody war in Gaza. Nearly 2 years after the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel that ignited the conflict, fighting continues with no end in sight. Both leaders now face intense pressure to deliver progress as the war's toll on civilians and soldiers mounts. At the heart of this visit is a proposed 21-point peace plan prepared by President Trump's team. According to sources familiar with the draft, the plan is expected to include an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the withdrawal of Israeli forces from the territory, and a large-scale exchange of hostages and prisoners. For Netanyahu, the stakes could not be higher. With several Western nations formally recognizing Palestine as a state and the European Union signaling potential sanctions against Israel, the Prime Minister faces mounting international and domestic calls to find a way out of the conflict. Scenes from Gaza underscore the urgency. Thick plumes of smoke rise from shattered neighborhoods as Israeli military operations enter yet another day. Humanitarian agencies warn of worsening conditions in the densely populated enclave. Meanwhile, in Israel, the families of hostages held by Hamas grow increasingly impatient with what they see as Netanyahu's reluctance to accept a peace deal that could bring their loved ones home. On the eve of the Washington meeting, Trump took to his Truth Social platform with his trademark confidence, declaring, "We have a real chance for greatness in the Middle East, all on board for something special. First time ever, we will get it done." The former president's words signal both optimism and determination to achieve what has eluded generations of world leaders, a lasting peace between Israelis and Palestinians. Before departing for Washington, Netanyahu gave an interview to Fox News in which he struck a cautiously hopeful tone. Asked whether he had reviewed Trump's proposed framework and whether he was prepared to endorse it, he replied, "Well, we're working on it, Jackie. It's not been finalized yet, but we're working with President Trump's team actually as we speak, and I hope we can make it a go because we want to free our hostages. We want to get rid of Hamas rule and have them disarmed, Gaza demilitarized, and a new future set up for Gazans and Israelis alike and for the whole region." That statement revealed both Netanyahu's core demands and his sense of the challenges ahead. The Israeli leader has repeatedly insisted that any post-war settlement must ensure the complete disarmament of Hamas and prevent future attacks on Israeli territory. Yet back home, his political challenges are intensifying. Families of the remaining hostages have become a vocal and emotional force, demanding an agreement that prioritizes the safe return of their loved ones. One relative issued a stark public warning to Netanyahu. The whole world sees who Netanyahu is. The whole world, including US President Donald Trump, is determined to stop him from sabotaging again. "I'm looking you in the eyes, Netanyahu. If you come back without an agreement, a hell awaits you here that you can't even imagine." Such remarks reflect growing frustration in Israel, where polls indicate that a majority of citizens now favor an end to the conflict and a negotiated resolution. The political heat on Netanyahu was further illustrated by protests in Tel Aviv, where activists constructed a sand sculpture of the Prime Minister on a beach near the US Embassy. The sculpture depicted Netanyahu with a long Pinocchio-style nose, a pointed accusation of dishonesty, and carried a blunt message to Trump: "Don't be fooled again. For Palestinians in Gaza, the ongoing war has brought immense suffering and destruction. Civilians trapped in the besieged territory endure relentless bombardment and severe shortages of food, clean water, and medicine. Many hope the Washington talks will lead to a ceasefire and an end to their ordeal." Reports from the ground describe increasingly desperate conditions. Civil defense teams and medical workers with the Palestinian Red Crescent say they struggle to reach those in need due to the intensity of the fighting. Israeli forces have reportedly pushed deeper into Gaza City's urban core, advancing with naval support from the Mediterranean, combined airstrikes and tanks pressing through densely populated neighborhoods. Some residents have managed to flee southward, but many remain trapped, either unable or unwilling to leave their homes. Those still inside describe the situation as horrendous, relentless bombardment. Adding to the sense of urgency are the reported details of Trump's proposed peace framework. According to DW correspondent Tanya Kremer, the plan remains a work in progress and is better described as an outline rather than a finalised agreement. Kremer explained that some reports suggest there will be an immediate ceasefire that would then see the release of all the hostages, not just a partial group as in previous proposals. We're talking about 48 hostages, alive and deceased, to be exchanged for a significant number of Palestinian prisoners. The plan would also call for the withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza. Such provisions echo elements of earlier peace initiatives, but go further by demanding the release of all hostages and a comprehensive Israeli withdrawal. Notably, the plan reportedly includes input from key Arab states that met with Trump in recent days, signalling a wider regional effort to push for a durable settlement. However, as Kremer noted, Hamas's response is still unclear. They have certainly not yet at least publicly commented on it, she said, underscoring one of the many uncertainties that could complicate the road ahead. Netanyahu, too, faces significant political constraints. Members of his governing coalition, particularly hardline nationalists, remain adamant that the military campaign should continue until what they call a full victory over Hamas is achieved. For them, halting the war now would be tantamount to capitulation. Yet other Israelis, especially the families of hostages, argue that prolonging the war puts innocent lives at further risk without guaranteeing security gains. Kremer highlighted the delicate position Netanyahu finds himself in. There's also certain impatience being reported from the US administration towards the Israeli Prime Minister to really go for an end to the war. Netanyahu might be under pressure not to say no to US President Donald Trump, but it might be a yes, but. As always, the devil is in the details. That tension between external diplomatic pressure and internal political resistance has long been a defining feature of Netanyahu's leadership. This moment may prove decisive for his legacy as he weighs the demands of his cabinet against the demands of his country's allies and the mounting humanitarian crisis across the border. Meanwhile, the situation in Gaza remains dire. Residents describe near-continuous airstrikes and heavy artillery fire as Israeli troops move deeper into contested areas of Gaza City. First responders warn that hospitals are overwhelmed and that many injured civilians cannot be reached due to ongoing military operations. International aid agencies are calling for urgent humanitarian corridors to allow medical and food supplies to enter the war-torn enclave. For all parties involved, the stakes in today's Washington meeting could not be higher. Trump's self-assured declaration of a real chance for greatness reflects his belief that his brand of direct diplomacy can achieve what others could not. Netanyahu's cautious statements reveal a leader balancing the demands of powerful allies abroad with intense political and social pressures at home. For the families of hostages in Israel and the millions of civilians in Gaza, the stakes are personal and immediate: the hope of seeing loved ones freed and the chance for an end to the violence that has devastated their lives. The world has seen many attempts at Middle East peace falter over the years. This effort comes at a time of unique urgency. Recognition of Palestinian statehood is growing among key Western nations, and the European Union's threats of sanctions add another layer of political pressure. The humanitarian disaster in Gaza worsens daily, raising the cost of delay not only in human terms, but also in regional stability. As one anguished hostage relative warned Netanyahu, "If you come back without an agreement, a hell awaits you here that you can't even imagine." That stark warning underscores the volatile mix of hope and fear surrounding the talks in Washington. Trump, eager to claim a diplomatic triumph, will seek to persuade Netanyahu to accept his framework as the basis for a comprehensive ceasefire. Netanyahu, conscious of his political base and his coalition partners, must decide whether the political price of compromise is worth paying. For the people of Gaza, any agreement that halts the bombardment and brings relief would be welcome, though many remain sceptical after years of shattered promises. For Israelis, particularly those waiting for the return of hostages, a successful deal could mark the beginning of national healing after months of grief and anger. The meeting in Washington is being closely monitored, not only in the region, but also by global powers invested in Middle Eastern stability. A breakthrough could reshape alliances and reduce tensions, while failure could entrench divisions and prolong the suffering of millions. The hours ahead will determine whether this moment yields a tangible path to peace or becomes yet another chapter in the long history of missed opportunities. The world watches as Netanyahu and Trump sit down to discuss a plan that could alter the course of the conflict or leave it tragically unresolved. For now, hope persists, even amid skepticism. Trump has staked his reputation on achieving something special in the Middle East. Netanyahu must decide whether to embrace that vision or continue down the path of military confrontation. The outcome of their meeting could mark a historic turning point or a bitter continuation of a war that has already exacted a devastating human toll.